Hello and welcome to the Coach Logic podcast, Beyond Coaching podcast. It's been a long day, Ben. Today's guest is Ben Pollard, 4 decades in strength conditioning from Texas Tech, TCU in Alabama to Georgia State, and now head strength coach at Whitfield Academy. He's coached NFL athletes, Olympians, and now the next generation of high school athletes. We'll dig into how the field has changed, why high school athletes need better coaching, and what he regrets most from his career. Ben, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I wish it was 4:30. I'd probably be sharper if it was 4:30 where I am instead of 7:30. That's all right.
Well, we've been shooting today since we've been on calls since 9 a.m. So we're feeling it. I'm ready to go watch the Seahawks dominate the Arizona Cardinals. My hope is when this episode releases, the Seahawks are number 1 in the NFC West and maybe in the NFC. So let's see if we can create some affirmations there. Now, Coach, what's harder, coaching college athletes trying to make it to the NFL or coaching a 15-year-old freshman how to squat?
Probably coaching a 15-year-old freshman how to squat, because a college athlete that has his mind set on the NFL is probably willing to do whatever you tell him.
Absolutely. Nice. So Coach, tell me why strength conditioning and what pulled you into this career path? I know you've trained, you've been mentored by some legends in the sport. What was it for you?
I think during my time in college, first of all, my first experience was I worked at a racquetball club in the 80s, like early 79, 80. I mean, racquetball was really at its peak. And the guy, Matt Chandler, that owned the place also had the full Nautilus blue, the old Nautilus gym in there. And that was what I got to do. I got to run the Nautilus gym for him for about a year. While I was at Tech, I had a lot of friends that played football. And so I wanted to work out with them. So Mike Mock, who played at Tech, played in the NFL for the Jets, was a middle linebacker, was the strength coach at that time. Well, Mike said, yeah, sure, you can come work out with them, but then you have to clean up the weight room and lock it up before you leave. And so I was willing. So I just got to hang out like in the evenings with the Tech football team. And I won't say I trained like them. I trained while they were in the room, per se. And it was a little different because that was back in the days when AMF, this is Husker Power. We're on the way. So it was leg press till you barf kind of stuff that they would do.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to barf. So I did a little leg press, but I wouldn't. And so that really perked my interest in it. I graduated from Tech. I went to Dallas and worked in a cubicle for 3 years and said, what the heck am I doing? I was working out. I worked out at this garage gym in Dallas, bunch of dudes on steroids. Like there were these twin brothers. They'd be doing pull-ups with 100-pound plate between their legs. And I loved being with the meatheads. And so I went back to Tech and volunteered in the weight room as a graduate student. And then I got hired in my second semester as the GA, one of the 2 GAs at Texas Tech.
Man, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was Joe Jurassic, who spent 15 years as a Cowboy strength coach, was my mentor during this.
So what was the one moment in your early career that made you think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
There's just so much. First of all, the difference in high school and college is college athlete. The energy of college weight rooms and college athletes is way different than high school. High school kids, because they're not always seeing the long-term pictures per se, or, they're just playing ball because their friends are at the college level. And you could just have college athletes are just fun to be around. College students are fun to be around. You can have a lot different conversations with them. Just the energy that comes from being around a college weight room is pretty contagious. So nice. I just loved it. I didn't care that it was 12-hour days or 13-hour days. Time flew by. We weren't counting hours during that time.
Definitely. You've been in the field for decades. How has strength conditioning changed the most since you started?
I would definitely say sound bites and technology. A lot of gurus out there nowadays, like speed gurus and footwork gurus. Just, what I'm saying, like, here's 7 ways to get faster, and what I found is I didn't understand probably how to really help guys get faster or train linear speed. There's so many things you have to look at and be good at. And it probably took me 15 years before I really
Wow.
felt like I knew what I was doing. Maybe not that quite. We were pretty good at Sam Houston. It's funny because I spent almost 10 years at Sam Houston. Probably I was the best strength coach in the last 2 years there because nobody was looking over my shoulder. I had done a lot of research on my own trying to perfect my craft. I had a lot of input from different, that was the the Chew and the jumping into plyometrics. And we'd go to little clinics here and there and just learn and write notes and then take things away. And so it was really because there wasn't T Nation, although I love reading T Nation things, but there wasn't all of those things available on internet or even in magazines. We're still talking about just, muscle magazines and Flex and those things were the only sources that were interested in coaching.
Compared to today with the access, people have like near infinite access to knowledge, and what you guys were basically dealing with in a lot of ways was like what was given to you. There was books, but even a book like Super Training isn't really it's not a good practical book. You're not going to read that book and be like, now I know how to write a periodization program for a football team, right?
Yes.
So like you had a lot more of this like bits and pieces compared to now. Do you feel like that was something that slowed you down in learning because you had access to things like muscle mags, where it was like, that was kind of like people kind of learn that and like you're kind of pulling from a bunch of sources? Or do you feel like that was a benefit, I guess?
I will tell you what philosophically probably solidified how I coached was the USAW club coach course, which I told Zach this crazy story. Mike Bergner let me come out and spend the weekend in his house.
Yeah.
And he had the whole garage set up, but we went to Rio Rancho Vista High School and went through the club coach course, and I got to hang.
Yeah.
And then
what year was that?
This is 92, probably. I think that's about 92. And then in 94, I went to the Olympic Training Center. They used to have this course for senior level USAW course. So you went and spent a week there. It cost $100, room and board, all the food you could eat, stayed in the dorm, and then got to sit in all of the training sessions. And then when we got to lift, we're over in another gym lifting with wrestlers. Like, you could tell these dudes were not to be jacked with because they all had the bad ears. And like, no, I don't think, and so it was that helped me. And then I started writing my programs based on, tonnage and all of that. So like I say, I was at the height of that probably in the late 80s. I got pretty good at it. My buddy was played for me at Sam Houston and now is the head strength coach at West Florida says he still uses the 98 manual to write programs for his guys because we were snatching. Of course, we were hang snatching and hang cleaning and not from the floor because I just risk reward for it. And Dragomir was the coach of the Olympic team. And I asked that question. I said, what's the difference and how would you go about it? And he said, if you're not training multiple times a day, Olympic lifts only, then you're just a novice. If you're just an athlete who's training 8 hours a week, you're a novice. So hang clean, hang snatch. You're not good enough to get. And so I really appreciated that. That was great advice, from him. And it helped me solidify the fact that I was doing the right things.
Nice.
That's so funny, Max. I know we're laughing because like I'm thinking about today's lifters and like if they heard that they're novices, like people train for a year and think they're intermediate or advanced these days.
Yeah, it takes a week and a half. I have a funny story about Dragomir Saroslan, who he's talking about. My good friend Yasha Fay trained there, and Dragomir was a Romanian coach, right? So the U.S. used to do this thing where they would just like import some guy from somewhere. So they got Dragomir, and to his credit, he was probably the most successful version of a foreign coach coming in. After him, they had an American guy, then they pulled in a Polish guy, and like they kept doing this. But this is early 90s, right? So you're talking only a few years after the wall comes down and like this whole thing. So culturally very different. But the story my friend tells, Yasha, is there are a bunch of young dudes. There was no women at the center at this point. He's like, okay, in his voice, okay, gentlemen, into the sauna, please. And they all go in the sauna, right? And then, 5 minutes later, they're in the sauna and he opens the door and he's got a towel and he's butt naked and he walks in, he looks and he says, Dragomir sees that everyone in the room has shorts on and he goes, excuse me, gentlemen, 1 minute. And he goes back out and gets his shorts on. Because like in Romania, they all just went in naked, right? So he had no idea, but like the cultural, like, we just like, we're all training now. We go into the sauna naked. And he was like, as soon as he walked in, they're like, the look on his face was like, this is my mistake. He goes back out. Yeah. Don't steal that story. I give him credit. Yeah.
The most impressive thing about him is he's in like those old coaching shorts, a polyester and a polo shirt, and guys are lifting. And he's like, no. Because I haven't seen him warm up. I haven't seen him do anything. He just walks over, so like this, boom, and he snatches something off the floor. And you're going, okay, I didn't see that dude jack, but he just threw that up like it was nothing, So it was fun to watch him coach.
Yeah.
Because, and I can't use the word like, so they're teaching us how to, and I had never cleaned from the floor. And so they're teaching us, and they called me the P word, drop under it, you. And I was like, okay. And I finally learned to do the full drop catch. And, because I didn't want them laughing at. I'm lifting in front of the Olympic team. So that's good experience for adrenaline and other things. So
yeah, he was a crazy guy. I heard many stories like about, how he competed and everything, but he came over with his athlete, Niku Vlad, to the US before that. And Niku Vlad started doing this exercise in front of a guy out here, Jim Schmitz. And he was like, picked the barbell up with a bunch of weight and he was lifting it up and bending at the hips and leaning over with his legs straight. And it was like a weird deadlift variation. Jim says, kind of like, what's that called? What do you call that? And he's like, oh, it's just a thing for his back. And Jim says, oh, it's a Romanian deadlift. And that was it. And that's where the name came from.
And now we all do it. Exactly.
We all do it that way. Yeah.
So I went straight from Colorado Springs to Phoenix for the NSCA National Convention, and Meg Stone was one of the platform speakers. It was and she was quite the strength coach because she was at Texas Tech. In fact, I lost the Texas Tech job to Meg Stone, and I understood why, because she was a lot better coach than I was at that time.
Yeah.
So it was, I learned a lot in a short period of time, but it really affected going into my summer and then how I did the rest of my things.
So given, your history and all this stuff, what do you think we've gained and what do you think we've lost with modern training?
Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not in Texas like I was, but I thought like Texas high school kids came in stronger than other places. And I might be wrong about that, but 20 years ago, they definitely came in. I felt like stronger. Like when all those years I was with Francione, if a kid couldn't bench 300 and squat 400, we probably weren't even going to look at him in terms of recruitment and other things, which was crazy because I don't think you could carry that into some of those athletes we got at Alabama and other places because they just weren't as trained in the weight room. They were just as strong. It just didn't show in numbers, as it were. So I don't think kids lift as hard now as they did 30 years ago. But I also think we have more gadgets. Mm-hmm. We want to do stuff on a Bosey ball rather than just get strong. Yeah. That's that old, I grew up Husker Power too. Like that was one of my big influences. So, because there they were doing hang snatch and hang clean and ground-based activities. So those things influenced me, and lifting heavy weights just seemed like athletes, there were less injuries. Maybe that's just me being old. Like now, every time I look up, somebody's injured. The NFL is amazing to me how many guys get hurt so fast.
Well, some of that too, I think, obviously there's recency bias. Like I feel like I've been a pretty big football fan for, a long, long time, probably not as long as you, but maybe last decade, we'll call it decade and a half. And I feel like each year there's more and more injuries. And I don't know if that's because I'm watching more games or it's just recent and I don't remember the previous injuries, but it feels like potentially with, the NFL, we have more and more turf fields. I know that's been we've already had 2 Achilles ruptures that I'm aware of from like pretty star players this year. Yep. And I'm sure I know, that can play a huge role for sure. But or it's that, back in the day, if you get a little nicked up, you have some elbow pain or knee pain, you just push through it because that's what you did. And then in today's day and age, it's kind of like all about rehab and prehab and the warm up and PT and stuff like that. And then, it's tough to know which one's the right answer because, like, obviously we want to make sure athletes are being, taking care of their bodies and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I always think of the that inverted U curve. You've got like a caveman on one side, you have the nerd on top, and the Jedi. And it's like the way I see it with lifting weights. It's like the first guy's like, just lift, brother. The guy on top, is talking about all the data and metrics, and the guy on the right, the Jedi's like, just lift, brother. And it's like, dude, let's just do the thing. Let's just push hard. If we train hard, we're probably going to get result. If we're constantly trying to solve for X, Y, or Z, we're spending too much time thinking.
I would agree with that. Like I say, the first thing as a strength coach, like I always think about this. I always think if so-and-so, if Zach walked into my weight room right now and saw all my kids squatting or cleaning, would he think, oh my God, this guy's got 40 years experience? What is he doing? No, I always think somebody that mentored me or I worked with, if they walk in my weight room, I want them to say, those kids are up to the standard that he's asked. So I want competent weightlifters more than anything else. Like I say, I mean, be competent. Once you're doing that, then I think you getting stronger is just a matter of visits to the weight room, especially when I'm dealing with 15 to, or actually 13 to 17-year-old kids. When that testosterone kicks in and other things, just the hormonal things happen, guys get muscles. I'm watching a group of these freshman boys right now, and I'm looking up going, these dudes are getting shoulders, that they didn't have in 8th grade, and they just look different. And so it's not magic. God created that first, and we just don't have, if we don't screw it up, like I say, I don't want to get in and my kids hurt doing something that they don't need to do.
Yeah.
I'm really careful. I'm a safety squat guy and a Z squat guy in season because I just want to be real careful. I don't let guys put bars on their back.
Definitely. So, you've coached at some athletic powerhouse colleges, and I know you transitioned to high school, partly, I believe, because your son started playing football at Whitfield. Is that correct?
Well, he was playing there when I was at Georgia State as the head strength coach, and they had just started football. Coach Curry was the coach. And then the head trainer at that time and I got to be good friends because I was always there when I could be and helping them set up their strength and conditioning stuff. And now he's the AD. So he asked me if I'd be willing to come back because I was out of coaching for a few years. Kind of.
Yeah. So what's the biggest change you had to make personally as a coach, going from coaching high level collegiate athletes to high school kids, some that probably care about lifting and some that would rather be doing something else?
That is what's your motivation? What's motivating you to do this and figuring that out, and just personal relationships, with kids and how early. And sometimes I think it's starting a little earlier is better. Teaching 6th and 7th grade boys and girls how to front squat. I have some 13-pound, training bars and some 18-pound. So just training them first, like I say, to be competent about it and just repetitive. They probably get tired of the first 2 months of school because we're going to do the same workout every time. I'm going to teach you how to do an RDL, and I'm going to that Romanian deadlift thing, and then I'm going to teach you how to front squat or Z squat or goblet. So just getting them, and once it hits, like once they feel that, I think they're way more motivated, especially females, because and I'm in a really academic school, so all these people want to be perfect right up front. Hey, I'm not going to try something unless I'm good at it. And so as they gain competence, they seem to be more motivated, needless to say. So
do you find that kids today or do you feel like there's any difference, like more or less athletic? Like when you get people in the weight room, do you feel like it takes you longer to teach them, or it's harder, or like, years ago it was easier, or do you feel like there's any difference?
I don't think so. I don't remember us because I'm in the old presidents, middle school for us was climbing the rope and doing the pegboard and wrestling, and we didn't really lift weights. Like we do curls, and I don't even remember a bench press in middle school. So I don't remember. And then even when I did bench press in high school. We used the old Marcy machine, which was a stacked machine up against a wall, and you pulled the pin and did the. So I wasn't around it as a high school student. So the first time I'm around it, like seriously, was at Texas Tech with college football players. And so they were doing a lot of different things too. Like I said, the leg press and the building quads. And I don't remember them squatting a lot. They used to do these lunge walks with 100-pound dumbbells in each, they were doing different things. So I don't know if I was exposed to a really good strength program until, I watched Jurassic, but his philosophy and the one I moved toward were very much different. We didn't clean. So it was a different philosophy. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Makes sense.
When a freshman walks into the weight room, what tells you that they've got something special?
Well, you know what? The term is dog. Remember, we're all looking for dogs.
Yeah.
I just want, when they walk in, I want them to have energy. That's all get your hands out of your pockets, and let's get to work. But I think it's for boys, they have a competitive nature. Our kids are fairly competitive. So I like it that way. We have 22 freshman football players. So last spring, they all start in the spring. The boys that are going to play football in high school, so they're 8th graders, they get to start working out in the mornings with all the older guys. And so they're kind of tucked in their little corner. But if the older kids are helpful too, and I've had 2 pretty good groups back to back of seniors who are helping these kids and not just dogging them. So I think that's it. There's a camaraderie in the weight room that if you get it right, I think builds everybody up a little bit. I mean, there's guys that don't want to lift. And I've coached guys that have played a long time in the NFL and they didn't love lifting. So they just knew what they had to get done.
Yeah. What do you do from a coaching standpoint that facilitates, a culture of buy-in to the program and hard work? Like, do you have, a secret or hack or trick or tip that you've found to bring out, the best, and maybe some of these kids that they don't want to train, but there's something special and you've been able to talk them into, hey, like you need to be doing this stuff, and they've made it to the next level?
That's probably, again, I'd say relationships are so important. So if a kid's maybe an athlete, but also our kids are really stay busy. So I go to every play and every musical and every orchestra, and I know all the band kids, and I just have that. And so some of them end up in my weight room, and I have a relationship with them that makes them more comfortable to sign up for my weight training class, or, I just think I got to know something about you and cheer what your strengths are, even if it's not athletic strengths, to encourage you to come in. So I know most kids, and the kids that love lifting weights and are going to go in there and get after it. I have to create a great environment for them and have the right tools and the right program design, but I don't have to create any extra motivation per se for them. It's the kids that I try to, like, we got a couple football players that don't play much, but some of them are better lacrosse players. So my deal with them is, hey, if you do all these things, you're going to be way more ready to play lacrosse this spring. I know you don't love this, but you love that. So keep that mindset about preparing yourself to do what you do love to do.
Definitely. What kind of culture did you walk into at Whitfield, and how did you change it?
The guy, Coach Mack, that was there before me, his background was more personal training. And so they just did a lot of really high volume, rah kind of things. Like, we're going to do 100 bench presses today, or we're going to lunge walk around the track, or those kind of things. I think there were kids that were still strong that lifted maybe heavier weights, but the volume of training, like sets of 15, and didn't lend itself to building more absolute strength. And so I'm not that guy. I'm for auxiliary and 3 to 5 for my base movement. So I like to see kids put on, and we probably did more max testing with our football guys, especially with my new football coach, because he's way into it and he's got a strength backgrounds. Between the two of us, we keep it fairly high energy and on task in the weight room.
Definitely.
I have a really good group of senior guys who I've known since they were in 8th grade, so I got a good relationship with them, and I know which ones I trust and don't. But for the most part, the football ones have worked hard to get to where they are.
What do you think the single biggest mistake most high school strength programs make is?
I think you and I talked a little bit about this. I think movement comes first. Movement's the priority over muscles. And I want and it's really hard to get young kids to stretch and to do certain, half kneeling, kettlebell, hip openers. Like, this is wasting my time. And just those things that are more detail oriented toward you being better at your sport. But I'm really I just keep adding a little bit here and there that's going to make sure that we're doing movement. We do a dynamic warm up. We do a yoga / quadruped type activity before we start. And I say, if you give me 45 minutes, we're going to spend 20 of it warming up and be ready to squat or ready to clean or ready to then just jump in at it. So, if I had a bigger room, I'd put everything on a clock. I love to say, okay, every 2.5 minutes, you're under the bar, and we move through it that way. There might be a rack with 5 kids over here and one with 3 over there, and it just doesn't work because these 5 are over there because they're about the same strength level and the same height. And so, I only have 10 racks. So like when I was at A&M and we had 24 racks, the clock was on the wall, and it was because especially preseason, when we get to July, you're doing 2 reps every 45 seconds. We're beeping and you're going, and we're going to get as close to being in a football game as we can get in a weight room, things like that. And I miss some of that, believe me. Like timed, even Team Builder you can time out the rest periods for them, but I haven't even started using that. It's just too difficult.
Yeah, Max, Ben's using Team Builder, our enemy.
I know. Sorry. It was Perch really tried to sell me, and Team Builder is letting me grow up into technology. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I started at Texas Tech, we hand wrote every workout. Jurassic would say, okay, like my group was linebackers and running backs. You're handwriting every workout. Here's what we're doing. And then I think we got the early form of Excel, like it was on a floppy disk. And so we started writing them that way. And we'd hit the printer and we'd come back from lunch, and most of them were printed out. It would take the printer about an hour to print out, 100 workouts. It was compared to the technology now, it's just crazy how much simpler that part is. And again, where those things help is the mental process of me designing it good and running a linear across a 8-week, 6-week, 3-month program and stay in one lane of thought. I'm a 21-day adaptation guy. We do the same basic things for 3 weeks, and then I change the primary and so one of the things that really experience helps this. So when I went to Texas A&M, there's 8 other strength coaches training their teams, all of us in the same weight room. So I'm watching 8 other people. Rachel Ellsworth was probably considered one of the best strength coaches, but she's definitely best female. She's like the queen. And she had grown up under Mike Clark, who's now the Detroit Lions guy, and it was all Olympic based. Well, she went to Westside completely. And I thought, okay, that Westside stuff's nonsense. And then I watched it when it's done right. Dynamic effort, box squat, and other things. I thought, okay, so you can either snatch for explosion or you can do a dynamic effort box squat with chains. Both of them create the same physiological adaptation. You're just now, and if I have all of those tools, then I go 3 weeks of hang snatch and then 3 weeks of dynamic, you know what I'm saying? So the stimulus changes, and now the mastery happens over about a 3-week period of time. And then we're moving to the next stimulus to create the adaptation.
I love that, man. No, I think it's solid. I'm going to circle back with you when we're ready for more bigger team sports stuff. I think there's some cool AI tools I can show you that I think
Okay.
can be a game
Okay.
changer for
Do
you.
you
But
go, do you go to the conference?
oh, we haven't, but I mean, those are all things that we definitely want to get into more and more of. And so yeah, we're right now our app is amazing for a lot of the barbell specific coaches, powerlifting, weightlifting. I've got some, lots of gyms, group classes, and I've been getting a lot into the Florida high schools that have weightlifting teams, and then those coaches usually also coach, a lot of the sports and stuff like that.
Yes.
But yeah, Team Builder, I mean, they're really good. I mean, they've definitely sectored themselves into the market of S&C teams, and like that's what they do. I remember we checked it out for our gym about 5 years ago, and we were like, oh no, like it's not meant for barbell. It's not meant for that one-to-one or that one-to-many. It's meant for teams and groups and stuff like that. So
I would agree with that one.
For sure. So Ben, you've coached NFL guys, you've coached Olympians, now you're in high school, you're coaching high schoolers. What keeps you motivated to keep driving forward and look forward each day?
I still love the energy of being in a weight room, being around kids. I love watching, like I say, 8th grader, he's this tall to me, and now he's a senior and he's taller than me, and you're watching this development, and it's not like it's happening fairly quickly in a way, but it's just all of a sudden you look up and go, dang, you've done a good job. It's not, again, it's just me wanting to help a kid who really wants to be good at a particular sport or something else, and being able to help. Like, I feel like if you can teach a 14-year-old how to do things, you can teach a college athlete to do things.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, skill sets, like even movement skills, like, hey, how to do the footwork on the boxes and different things that we do to try to help kids improve. I feel sound, I may not be cutting edge, but I definitely feel like all the things that we do are sound and never we're not moving in the wrong direction to help a kid. So I wish things would slow down, but they don't. And especially, like I say, almost all of our athletes are multi-sport athletes. We have very few. So when I'm talking about football off season, which is springtime, then 90% of those dudes that are in there are playing another sport right now. They're playing baseball or men's soccer or lacrosse. So I never get a true off season with athletes, not what I would like you do in college with a group of football players, where you can control so much of the volume and other things. I don't have control. Like, if that kid plays soccer, then he's running 7 miles at practice. Okay. So how do I, as his strength coach, help him make sure that we keep him from getting overtrained or absolute? Like, I mean, that's a kid, like some of those kids like that, I want to test their vertical jump every time they walk in the room. So there's a jump mat, and we can at least take a quick shot at how you doing to see if we're being effective. So it's
100%.
That's the hardest part in a really small setting, is you're not getting, I don't know that 10 of our football players are just football players. Out of the 60 or 70, 65 kids we have, I don't think all, but 10 of them might be all year-round football players.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, Ben, hey, we appreciate you being on the podcast. I love the just the wealth of knowledge you bring and the history that you have. I'm sure we could have an entire episode just on the craziest feats of strength you've seen in the gym and funny stories and stuff like that. So we'll have to circle back at some point, man. But appreciate your time today. Thanks for hopping on with us a little bit later. I know it's a little bit later over there. So
no, that's all right. I'm used to it. Hey, the football game just started.
I got 3 minutes. I'm looking at the clock. I have 3 minutes before.
Yeah. Like,
eyes on that clock.
Yeah. I haven't seen the second half of a football game, a night game. I'm a Steeler fan, so I did watch your Seahawks crush my Steelers.
Crush you guys.
Ooh.
Discipline.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, I haven't seen that back into many games in a while, because I'm usually at school by 6 or 6:30.
Definitely, man. Well, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Great to get to spend time with you, gentlemen. Anything I do to help, really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Definitely.